Good evening and welcome to a program devoted entirely to Lefties Losing It. Let's start the week with the ever-reliable Stephen Colbert, a man who was once funny, perhaps decades ago, but has been reduced to a miserable, moaning activist incapable of wit. He's been reduced to this.
Look, Dana, they're trying to portray Border Patrol agents and ICE agents as Gestapo, Nazi, and many other words.
Yes, do not compare ICE or Border Patrol agents to the Nazis. That's an unfair comparison. The Nazis were willing to show their faces.
Yes, Stephen, well done. ICE and Border Patrol agents are worse than Nazis. How clever and comedic of you. And do seek help before the men in white coats arrive and whisk you away. Talking about crazy, let's have a look at these agitators, these brainwashed clowns who think they are heroic freedom fighters defeating the Nazis. Just have a look at this lot, how performative and pathetic this all is.
Deportation! Up with liberation! Down, down with deportation! From Palestine to Mexico! The border walls have got to go! Down, down with deportation!
You know, media commentator Megan Murphy nailed it when she said, these people are 100% thick, they're in a movie. But they're just privileged little nerds who have zero relationship with working class or poor people and have no idea how the real world works. Hear, hear. Talk about being out of touch. Let's hear from Lady Gaga, who had a lengthy rant at a concert in Tokyo. She read it out. It wasn't very good. Here's a little of what she had to say.
My heart is aching, thinking about the people, the children, the families all over America who are being mercilessly targeted by ICE. I'm thinking about all of their pain and how their lives are being destroyed right in front of us. I'm also thinking about Minnesota and everyone back at home who is living in so much fear and searching for answers on what we all should do.
Just so divorced from reality. And did you notice the lack of cheers and applause? The Japanese have no time for your empty, vacuous and self-indulgent virtue signalling, Lady Gaga. It blows my mind that she would deliver that idiotic rant in Japan, a country that has zero tolerance for illegal immigration, a country with some of the strictest migration laws anywhere in the world. Now, when the celebs are not cheering on lawless, violent agitators in Minneapolis, they are cheering for sacked CNN hack Don Lemon, who was arrested for storming a church during Sunday service. That gets you standing ovation in Hollywood.
Don Lemon.
But I'm sure what you're desperate to know right now is what the most chronically wrong woman in Hollywood thinks of the whole Don Lemon saga. A woman who is proof that wisdom does not come with age. Take it away, Hanoi Jane.
Don Lemon is a professional journalist. He and his producer were doing their job. Nothing more, nothing less. And he's been arrested. And they'll make up all kinds of defamatory things to say about him. That's what they're doing. This is how autocrats act. We can't fall for it. We have to speak up. When a red line is crossed like this, we cannot be silent.
Be getting to our 5 biggest lefties losing it at the Grammys shortly. But first, let's check in with actor Peter Dinklage, who recited this moving, poignant poem for Renee Good. This is not at all cringe and crazy.
For Renee Nicole Good, killed by ICE on January 7th, 2026. They say she is no more, that there her absence roars, blood blown like a rose. Ice wheels flinched and froze. Now, bare riot of candles.
Oh dear, that's the same nincompoop whose activism saw dwarf actors miss out on coveted roles. Remember that? Peter Dinklage just put 7 of us out of job. Dwarf actors fury at Disney for cancelling 7 dwarfs from Snow White remake because the woke multimillionaire Game of Thrones star said they were offensive. Yes, well done, Peter, you selfish flog. Before we delve into the Grammys, let's check in on NBC host Kristen Welker. Here she is interviewing, if you can call it that, the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche. Listen to the framing of this question.
Mr. Blanche, is the death of U.S. citizens a price the Trump administration is willing to pay to carry out its immigration policies?
Oh, Kristen, you deserve to be schooled for asking a question like that, and that's precisely what happened.
Very confused about why the conversation is about what you're talking about, instead of focusing on what really matters, which is why in one city, in one place do we have these problems. We deport 10 times the number of illegal aliens out of Texas than we do out of Minneapolis. Why do we hear nothing out of Texas about any of the same problems that we have in Minneapolis? I'll tell you why. Because in Texas, we have the cooperation and support of local law enforcement so that we can do these operations safely, keeping U.S. citizens and others protected and safe. That is not what we have in Minneapolis.
Yes, the likes of NBC's Kristen Welker want to blame the Trump administration for the lawlessness and violence we are seeing from agitators in Minnesota and the obstruction we are seeing from the Democrat governor and the mayor of Minneapolis. And that's precisely the line of celebrity virtue signalling we were treated to at the Grammys, with the stars wearing Ice Out badges and clapping each other's asinine comments. Here are the worst of the worst, the top 5 lefties losing it at the Grammys, starting with, well, the man who will be headlining the Super Bowl halftime show, Bad Bunny. And I'm sure I recall him promising not to come to Trump's America and perform there because it was unsafe. But he is in America collecting awards and talking crap.
I'm going to say Ice Out. We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens, we are humans and we are Americans.
Well, you see, if you're talking about Americans in America legally, then they have absolutely nothing to fear from ICE. But these dim-witted celebs seem not to be able to differentiate between legal and illegal immigrants, including the dude in the number 4 spot of our Lefties Losing It at the Grammys, Shabuzi, who was in tears as he deliberately confused illegal and legal migrants.
Immigrants built this country, literally. So this is for them, for all children of immigrants. This is also for those who came to this country in search of better opportunity, to be a part of a nation that promised freedom for all and equal opportunity to everyone willing to work for it. Thank you for bringing your culture, your music, your stories, and your traditions here. You give America color. I love y'all so much. Thank you.
In the number 3 spot is a rapper I've never heard of before who had plenty to say on the red carpet and on stage. Here is Kalani.
I really wanted to say but I think they needed some couth on the carpet or something. I'm a little couthless, ruthless. But I think everybody, we're too powerful of a group to all be in the room at the same time and not make some kind of statement in our country. So yeah, it's brainless to me.
Everybody's inspired to join together as a community of artists and speak out against what's going on. And I'm gonna leave this and say ICE.
Now to the coveted number 2 position, and it's Billie Eilish with one of the dumbest statements ever uttered on stage. She claims here that nobody is illegal on stolen land. If you don't believe in borders, Billie, then how can anyone be on stolen land? Think about it. And it's all well and good to spew such absurd platitudes when you live in a mansion behind big walls and gates with armed security nearby. Watch here as the simpletons in the crowd, including Sabrina Carpenter, clap like trained seals at Billy's profoundly stupid words.
No one is illegal on stolen land. And yeah, it's just really hard to know what to say and what to do right now.
It's hard to know what to say. She went on to say F ice, just so brave and so profound. But she's not number one, because this next dude, the host of the Grammys, wins for saying something so silly that he could see him sued for defamation and financially ruined. Not sure this joke was worth a likely lawsuit, Trevor Noah.
That is a Grammy that every artist wants, almost as much as Trump wants Greenland. Which makes sense. I mean, because Epstein's island is gone, he needs a new one to hang out with Bill Clinton, so...
And that cheap, unfunny joke may cost Trevor Noah dearly, because moments after the Grammys concluded, President Trump posted this, saying that the Grammys are the worst, virtually unwatchable. And he had this to say about Trevor Noah's Epstein claims. He said, "I can't speak for Bill," that would be Bill Clinton, "but I have never been to Epstein Island, and until tonight's false and defamatory statement, have never been accused of being there, not even by the fake news media. Noah, a total loser, better get his facts straight and get them straight fast. It looks like I'll be sending my lawyers to sue this poor, pathetic, talentless dope of an MC." Ouch. And earlier today, he doubled down on that criticism.
Mr. President, are you going to sue Trevor Noah? Last night in a post, you alluded that something could be coming.
Yeah, well, he said that I spent time on Jeffrey Epstein's island. I didn't. I mean, he's a lightweight, this guy. He's a terrible, I think he's terrible. I thought he did a terrible job at the Grammys. I thought the whole Grammys was terrible. I watched part of it. It's not watchable. But he was a lousy host. I'd say not as bad as Jimmy Kimmel, but pretty close. And no, he made a statement about me and Jeffrey Epstein. I have nothing to do with that. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein.
I have little patience for fantasies dressed up as policy, whether it's socialism rebranded or governments pretending debt doesn't matter. Free markets, personal responsibility and capitalism have lifted more people out of poverty than any slogan ever could. But even strong systems fail when governments overspend, overregulate and manipulate currencies while assuring you everything is perfectly fine. That's why you can protect savings with what's real: physical gold and silver from American Hartford Gold. Tangible assets that hold value through inflation, market turmoil and repeated failures of big government. With thousands of five-star reviews, they deliver gold and silver to your door or secure gold IRAs for long-term planning and peace of mind. And right now, when you call and mention Rita, you could get up to $20,000 in free silver with your first purchase. Call 844-321-3110 or text Rita to 65532. That's 844-321-3110 or text RITA to 65532. Or click the link in the video description. Because when reality starts looking like parody, it pays to own something that's real. I've always said the most racist, bigoted folk in the West are the modern left. They are shameless about it. Their race obsessions are frankly sick. And so much of what they do is projection. They accuse their political opponents of what they themselves are guilty of. And here is another example. Watch these anti-ICE activists call a black agent the N-word after accusing him of ripping people from their families.
About counting our energy, like we should rip people apart from their families. Are you a man?
Wow.
Wow, is that a question?
Wow.
Okay. How do you feel about ripping people from their families? Does that feel good?
Sir, I need to move.
Where'd you put a KKK?
Why are you calling a woman a man? I mean, what kind of a guy does that?
They used the N-word there at least 3 times, and they seemed extra angry that he asked quite reasonably if the dude in the dress was a man. Apparently misgendering a man pretending to be a woman means you can be called the N-word repeatedly. Let's check in with a male nurse now who seems to be advocating for all sorts of behaviours that would be a breach of the Hippocratic Oath.
Remember how much power nurses have in this country? One of our own was just murdered in the street. So, we might be able to stop this somehow. The type of ICU nurse I was cardiac ICU nurse. And I did a lot of time, lots of hours, holding on a groin that wouldn't stop bleeding. Let me tell you what, that femoral artery, the vasculature in the leg, it really bleeds well. Someone could bleed out very quickly from that, probably like a couple of minutes, really.
When I tell you these people are nuts, I'm not kidding. Nuts and nasty and with a false sense of moral superiority.
I would really suggest to all the healthcare organizations out there that if you have knowingly MAGA employees, that you terminate them. They're not safe people to take care of other people.
Yeah, it's the MAGA nurses and doctors that are a threat to patients. What was I saying before about projection? That's all the left have these days, lies and projection. And earlier today, the dude there, Chad, lost his job, thank God. You know, after that vileness, let's have a little fun. This next clip has sent the online left into fits of unbridled rage. I can't imagine why. What could be more delightful than a Nicki Minaj, Scott Percent collab? I did not think we'd see a Minaj collaboration with the Treasury Secretary in my lifetime, but here we are, and we were treated to this delightful pairing as well.
With my favorite president, the best president of all time.
And I'm with the queen of rap.
You know, the president seems much happier in the company of superstar Nicki Minaj than members of the media, including the perpetually miserable CNN anchor Caitlin Collins. Watch this exchange from earlier today.
What did you say? Go ahead.
What would you say to the survivors who feel they haven't gotten justice?
You are the worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. You know, she's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile on your face.
I'm asking you about survivors.
You know why? You know why you're not smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth, and you're a very dishonest organization, and they should be ashamed of you.
Now, Nicki Minaj has put the issue of voter ID back on the agenda, and the latest polling is clear. People of all colours, backgrounds and political persuasions want to see voter ID, except the hard left that dominate the media, political and activist class. Even CNN has had to admit that the overwhelming majority of Americans want voter ID.
83% in the last year of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj. They favor photo ID to be able to vote.
What about by party? What's the party breakdown?
Yeah, normally you might expect, hey, there'd be a big divide by party with Republicans really for it and Democrats really against it. But not really here. I mean, just take a look here. Favor photo ID to vote. You got 95% of Republicans, pretty much all of them, but even 71% of Democrats favor photo ID to vote.
Okay, that all seems rather emphatic, but what about the racial background? Because that's what the left has been arguing for years, that voter ID is racist.
85% of white people favor it, 82% of Latino, 76% of Black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote.
Wow, 82% of Latino and 76% of Black voters favour voter ID, and yet the The left will argue it is racist and designed to stop minorities from voting. Let's have a look at how the left view minority voters and voter ID. The casual bigotry you're about to hear is astounding. This is the bigotry of low expectations.
Do you have an opinion on voter ID laws?
Yeah, they're usually pretty racist and they're bad. I think voter ID laws are a way to perpetuate racism.
Would you go as far as say those laws are racist?
For sure.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Definitely.
Tell us how.
Because they're less likely to have state IDs.
Minority voters are less likely to have the kinds of IDs that have been described or required.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy access to DMVs or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs you do over the internet. Does that also make it difficult for black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that's harder for black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works.
A lot of people have smartphones, but you might not have data.
For most of the communities, they don't really know what is out there just because they're not aware or they're not informed.
I also think there's a repression of black voting with how if you're a convicted felon, you're not allowed to vote and everything. And when you look at swing states like Florida, that's a huge population of the African Americans.
Okay, let me get this straight. According to the left, people of colour are either too dumb or too poor to have ID, or they're criminals. And sad news for the leftist activists masquerading as journalists at the Washington Post, with hundreds of jobs slashed across its newsroom after the paper lost $77 million US in 2023 and $100 million in 2024. I'd have a little more sympathy for those job losses if it weren't for the fact that the Washington Post is nothing but a propaganda outlet for the Democrats, pumping out endless misinformation, always in the same direction. And they were guilty of pushing the Russian collusion hoax. Here's just 30 seconds of the fake news that the Washington Post pumped out and the rest of the media ate up.
Russian President Vladimir Putin gave direct instructions to help elect Donald Trump president. According to a Washington Post investigation, former President Obama received a secret CIA report in August. That report, quote, captured Putin's specific instructions on the operation's audacious objectives, defeat or at least damage the Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton.
This morning, the Washington Post is reporting that U.S. intelligence agencies had sourcing deep inside the Russian government, capturing Putin's direct instructions in the operation.
Maybe a good idea to learn how to code. Now, let's look at some of the indoctrination happening in American schools. Look at how these young children are being taught to hate and protest against the president. No Donald Trump! 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 You know, that reminds me of going to school in Iran, in Tehran, and being forced to chant "Death to America" at school assembly. That's what blue cities are turning into. And it doesn't get much better when the kids are in high school. Here are more brainwashed kids protesting ICE and Trump.
Yeah, Donald Trump, I ain't vote for this place, rolling pretty pink box to my minds of that shit.
But this has to be my favourite anti-ICE protest. This is just so stunning and brave. The sacrifice these lefties are making is profound.
We all got drinks without ice because ice.
Ice! What the
ice? Cheers.
Ice!
Time to check in now on the Vice President, J.D. Vance, schooling yet another TV anchor. This just gets tiresome after a while.
Should you plan to apologize to the family of Alex Preddy?
For what?
For, labeling him an assassin with ill intent.
Well, again, I just describe to you what I said about Alex Preddy, which is that he's a guy who showed up with ill intent to an ICE protest.
No, but if it is
determined,
if it's determined that his civil rights were violated by this FBI investigation, will you apologize to that?
So, if this hypothetical leads to that hypothetical leads to another hypothetical,
it's a real case.
Will I do a thing?
Now, it seems the Vice President has grown weary of doing interviews with dim-witted anchors on CNN, NBC, CBS, etc., etc., interviews that are watched by a dwindling audience. So he went where the eyeballs are in 2026. He sat down with Megyn Kelly. Here he talks about the media and their refusal to cover what has been an astonishing story, the dramatic drop in violent crime in the past 12 months, including an almost 20% drop in the murder rate. Assaults are down, theft is down, but the media has all but buried the story.
You asked about the crime. Okay, why is the crime rate so low? There are a lot of reasons. One is that we've empowered local law enforcement. Another reason is because we've deported a lot of criminals in the United States that should have never been here in the first place because they were illegal aliens. So the media cannot even express an ounce of nuance. It's never, oh, well, maybe this, we disagree with this, let's have a conversation about that. But like, let's tell the truth about the fact that there are Americans who are alive today because of Donald Trump's crime and immigration policies. They can't do that. It's always just shouting, angry all the time. You're Gestapo, you're the fascist. And it's just crazy. And it does the American people a real disservice.
And the Vice President weighed in on the arrest of Don Lemon after that storming of a church in Minnesota. JD did not hold back.
You mentioned the press a minute ago. Someone who claims to be a member of it is Don Lemon, who's been arrested now.
The dumbest man in television.
Yeah, I mean, that's
formally
saying something. He's under arrest because he stormed a church in the middle of a Sunday service, along with a lot of other rioters, and disrupted people trying to worship. He's trying to cloak himself in the First Amendment, saying this is an attack on freedom of the press. And you say what?
Well, I say first on, no one's objecting to you standing outside of a church and protesting. No one's objecting to you no one's saying you can't protest the Trump administration's immigration policies, or frankly, our policies on anything else. What you cannot do is go into somebody's house of worship and prevent them from exercising their First Amendment right to the free exercise of religion. That's what happened. By the way, there's a federal law on the books that says you're not allowed to interrupt churches. You're not allowed to prevent people from entering or leaving a church. And the Biden administration aggressively prosecuted people. Where was Don Lemon when people were getting aggressively prosecuted for sham violations of the FACE Act? We have a rock-solid violation of the FACE Act, which is you were sticking a microphone in the face of a minister during the church service while the people you were with were preventing people from leaving. That's a violation of the law. That's not about the First Amendment.